Try anyone. I really want to thank them again for coming. It's so crowded here and traverse the maze of people. And anyway, so there they are. Nightmare at Christmas.
Before
Christmas. I'm sorry, I've been doing this for a while. Sorry about that.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. It's got a big fan following. Some people call it cult film, whatever. Chris, what do you feel when people come up to you about voicing this character and you know, because it's essentially an animated character, and they kind of like bond with it. That is.
Yeah, to me, the thing I guess that was most surprising, I remember when I saw the first cut of the movie, because they sent it to me because Tim and I were going to go back. The movie was directed by Henry Selick, wasn't directed by Tim Burton, right? But after it was done, then Tim and I went back into the ADR studio and we redid a few scenes and, you know, redid some lines. And so they sent it to me before we were going to go to work together, and when I first saw it, I thought, this is amazing. This is amazing. I've never seen anything like it. But that was purely on a, you know, having worked on it and gone to San Francisco like 7 or 8 times to do the voice work, and over a period of like 2 years. I don't know how long you worked on it, but
I've been near the end. I came in near the end.
yeah. And so I didn't have any idea of the way people would identify with a character. No idea. That's something that lives on after the movie is out and people have experienced it. And I think what's happened is that a lot of people watched it when they were kids and grew up watching it. It's a lot like that way with The Princess Bride too, by the way. That people grow up watching it and they identify with it very strongly. I have a lot of young people in their 20s who said they watched it from the time they can remember. So to me, that's the reason for its enduring life, plus the fact that it's a hell of a movie.
Yeah, I agree. And Ken, what are your thoughts about that? You know, when people come up to you and they talk so fervently about this thing you've done?
Well, for me, it was excuse me, a big surprise because, you know, the movie came out and it did well enough, but the love of it has actually escalated over the years. I had the opportunity to go to Tokyo a few years ago, and first of all, I'd never been to Tokyo, so that was enough. But I got there and went to Tokyo Disney, and it was one of the first times they had redressed the park for Halloween there. And they had all of this Nightmare Before Christmas stuff, and people were dressed and so forth. That's when it really clicked in my brain that this had become something notable. That's how I like to put it. Because I think, as Chris said, people, generation after generation now, of at least 20 years, I guess, have grown up with it. And it also has this following, sort of a goth following, is that right? Yeah, I was doing a show in LA, and 2 of the stage crew were kids, probably in their 20s, maybe early 20s, 19 or so. And this guy came to me and says, "Hey dude, I hear like you're in like Oogie Boogie in The Nightmare Before Christmas." And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Oh my God, oh my God." And he ran around to like 3 other people who were all in black and the whole thing. And they had the face of Jack on their t-shirts, and I didn't see. And I found out then what that following was, and that was a whole other group of people. So in the interim, I've had a lot of people who, you know, they don't see our faces, so it takes a minute for them to kind of connect it. But for them to come up and say how much this movie means to them and how often they watch it, and people who are 20 who are now showing it to their children, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So for me, it's been it continues to be an amazing experience.
And I think one other thing that I probably should have mentioned too is I have a lot of young people who come up and say the character meant a lot to them as they were growing up, because Jack goes through a lot of the things that young people go through as they're trying to figure out a way to transition from being children into adults. And that strikes a chord with a lot of people.
Now, Ken, you do a lot of voiceover work.
Some.
Voice work, I meant. Voice work.
And mostly theater, actually.
And theater, I know that. And so for this, since you primarily did that kind of thing, this was a little bit more easier for you, I would say. Whereas Chris, at the time, when this...
Actually, I come from the theater too.
Oh no, I know you come from the theater, but no, at the time, you were doing a lot more feature film work, I guess, when you did Nightmare Before Christmas.
Film, television, I've always done theater, so.
So, my big question for both of you is it, how difficult is it to do a character that's not a living thing, that's been animated? You know, you're giving your script, and you watch what you have to voice. What's the whole process behind it?
For me, there's not a lot of difference. The only difference, obviously, is you don't physicalize it. When you learn a character, build a character, voice a character, physicalize a character, for theater, let's say, the physicalization is the only difference. When they talked to me about it, they said, well, what's your take on it? They showed me pictures and different things like that. I said, well, my idea is it's somewhere between Bert Lahr, for the Cowardly Lion, and the voice of the demon in The Exorcist. And they went, wow, you're as weird as we are. Yeah. I said, so if I swing too far in either direction, you'll tell me, and that's, you know, sort of how it is. But that's how I approached it, and I approached it like I would do a character on stage or on television or film as well, to just build the character with the ideas that are in the script.
Yeah, it comes from the script, essentially. But also, and I think Ken probably experienced the same thing, is that the movie was storyboarded from beginning to end at the studio, so that when you walked into the studio, you saw the entire movie laid out in storyboards. And so, and there had been sections of the movie already animated. So there was a visual sense of what Jack looked like. I guess there wasn't for Oogie Boogie, but the songs had been animated before I started. So that Danny Elfman sang the songs, then they animated to Danny's voice. And then when I came in, I had the experience of being able to watch Danny's performance as a voice, singing voice, and the way they animated Jack. So that informed me to a certain extent. And then the script sort of did the rest, plus being in the studio with Henry and sort of going over every line 10, 15, 20 times, different ways. He said, well, try it this way, try it this way, try it this way. So it sort of tests your ability to kind of come up with novel ways of saying, I don't know. 20 different ways. And then they use the one that they think best fits the flow of the scene.
Here's a question I'm sure you heard a lot about. The Princess Bride film you were in. Are there any Princess Bride fans here? Do you get asked about that film a lot?
A lot.
Yeah. What's your recollection of that? Do you have like one particular one that sticks in your mind?
The recollections I have about that movie, just that it was a lot of fun. It was probably the most fun set I've ever been on, because there were so many crazy characters in the movie. Chris Guest, who was a brilliant improvisational comedian, director, who's brilliant, just off the cuff all the time. Rob Reiner, who comes from that tradition as well, and Cary Elwes, who looks like the most handsome man in the world and is one of the funniest guys alive, who can in a second do 10 different dialects. I mean, he's amazing. He really is. Mandy, who's extraordinarily talented, and we just had a lot of fun. Plus, the first 6 weeks on the movie, we were on location. And we were up in the middle of England somewhere at a hotel in a small town. So we were together all the time. We were eating our meals together, we were hanging out together. Andre, of course, that amazing man who is much missed. So we had a really good time shooting that picture. A lot of laughs. And by the way, just a little story. Mandy Patinkin, who tells this story, said that he worked with Cary for months on the duel, because they had to be able to do right and left-handed, and that he was never injured. The only time he was ever injured was he cracked a rib laughing during the Billy Crystal scene, the Miracle Max, because a lot of that was improvised. That was almost all Billy improvising.
So with all that sword dueling, he never got injured, but
he was fine until Billy Crystal laid him low.
I want to take some questions from anyone in the audience who would like to ask any. What do we have here? You, yes.
Hi. I had a question about your voice and Danny Elfman's voice. I never could tell the difference between the two of you when you were singing and when you were doing the voice acting. Was that hard or was that easy? Did that happen naturally?
Well, the reality is that we are the same person. No, I think since the singing part of the movie had already been done, I think they were trying to find a voice that was compatible with Danny's. And so it's probably one of the reasons that they cast me, is because my voice, at least in quality and timbre, was close to Danny's.
I'm assuming you did all your voice work in a booth by yourself. Do you feel hindered not having someone to play off of?
No, I wouldn't say I felt hindered. It was definitely different. Because again, I come from, working with people and you're surrounded by a bunch of people. But it was also a freedom. Because, as Chris said, you do 55 takes of one line and they pick the one they want. But it also allows you to go crazy, and nobody's there to go, what? So you can try anything. And once I really realized that they were going to choose what they picked out of the series of takes, I just went crazy and did all sorts of things, At times they were like, okay, that's enough, that'll do, But it was really freeing, so I didn't find it strange, no.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, the only time I had anybody to work with was Catherine O'Hara and I, Sally, did one day together of all the Jack and Sally scenes. So I did get a chance to kind of interact with her, but other than that, I was by myself in the studio all the time, with Henry.
Chris, what was it like working with Roddy McDowell on Fright?
One of the great experiences of my life, because Roddy was first of all, he was a walking history of Hollywood. He started making movies when he was a boy. If none of you have ever seen a movie called How Green Was My Valley, please take the time to sit down and watch it. First of all, it's one of the great American movies ever made. John Ford directed it. Walter Pidgeon, Maureen O'Hara, Donald Crisp, Sarah Allgood, the amazing cast. It's about a mining town in Wales, but it is just one of the most heartbreakingly beautiful, wonderful movies ever made. And Roddy is amazing in that movie. And then he went through Elizabeth Taylor with National Velvet, and then he did the Planet of the Apes movies. So, and he knew everybody in in Hollywood, everybody. And he was also the kind of person who, when you became his friend, wherever he was, I would open the mailbox on my birthday and there was a postcard from Roddy. Yeah, in red, that's right, yeah, saying happy birthday, Roddy. He took the most amazing photographs. If you go into a bookstore, there are books filled with Roddy McDowell Hollywood photographs. He was an amazing guy, really was. He was very much missed.
I just want to add one little thing to it, just because I got to do Christmas Carol at Madison Square Garden with Roddy, and he played Scrooge, and I played the Ghost of Christmas Present, whatever. But I just want to say it because I know he hears us somewhere. He was the most amazing gentleman, a griot of the Hollywood and everything. Like Chris said, he knew everybody, but he was so generous in spirit. And I had met him once before, then sort of in passing, but getting to work with him every day and play with him and everything, he was truly amazing, truly a lovely, lovely man.
Before I go to another question, because Fright Night got brought up, I thought David Tennant did a really interesting take on Roddy's character in the Fright Night remake. Mm-hmm. And I think he did a good enough job that I actually wound up liking it. What did you think about that?
I thought the movie was pretty good. I thought they did a nice job. I mean, it's very hard to recreate something. And they decided they didn't want to recreate it. They wanted to take just a different look at it. And I think it was the right thing to do. I talked to Colin a number of times, who was terrified because he was a big fan of the original when he was a kid. He watched it all the time. He watched it, he told me, 50 times. And I said, look, you got to go for what you're trying to do in this picture. Don't think about the old one. But it's hard when you've watched something since, for a long time, to watch something that's a new version of it and accept it. And I think that's the reaction that a lot of people had to the new version. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, it was really good. I think it's also David Tennant's first feature film. He had actually a prominent part here.
I guess, yeah.
Sir, you had asked a question? Yeah.
Yes. Looking back on the roles you've played, can you say you get more enjoyment out of playing a hero or a villain, and why is that?
Villains.
Villains, absolutely. They have lots more fun.
They have much more fun. Just ask Googie. Yeah, always.
Yes, sir.
I think you get to act out all the things that people consider to be antisocial or sociopathic or psychopathic behavior for fun rather than for real. So you get to kind of work it out of your system. That's why I'm such a gentle person.
You hear a lot of actors say they don't watch their own movies. Do you guys watch your own movies, or are they pretty much non-existent to you?
I watch them constantly. In fact, I have them on my iPad. If I had Google Glasses, I'd watch them on my Google Glasses. I never watch them. Seriously. Every once in a while, if something pops up, or somebody that I'm in passing, I'll watch a scene that I think is fun, but it's usually not the scene that I'm in.
It's weird, when you watch yourself, I can speak for myself. I always want to do it again.
Yeah.
When I watch it, oh God, why'd you make that face? Or something. So I don't look at them.
And the thing you have to live with is that it's there forever. And including the mistakes, the things that you wish you could do again. So it's not a pleasant experience to watch your mistakes over and over and over and over again.
I've been told that everyone has a favorite role, or it hasn't happened yet, or every role is their favorite. And then some people say, well, they do have one. Do you have one, Chris?
Maybe Dog Day afternoon. Maybe. But favorite kind of all time, the thing I had the most fun doing was a stage role that I did in New York, a play called The Light in the Piazza. It's a musical. It was a beautiful, beautiful musical.
Ken?
It's funny because you come to roles, whether it's film, television, or stage, you come to them at different periods in your life, and they mean different things when they come across. Whatever your personal life is, it informs your work, and vice versa in some ways. I had the pleasure of doing a show called Happiness with Chris's wife, Joanna Gleason, and it was one of those kind of shows where it was about what happens in your afterlife and the happiness you choose to have in life now depends on what your happiness is later. And it's one of those shows, as the years go by, more and more and more I realize the impact of it in a positive way. So each show has its own impact on you. Therefore, for me, it's like picking your favorite child. Dangerous. You might have one, but you better not say it.
Yeah, that's basically the way I feel too. Yeah.
There was a lady. Yes. Go ahead.
Hello. I know that you both have done a lot of plays, and you mentioned Joanna Gleason, Chris's wife. Chris, I know that you met your wife doing the show Nick and Nora, and that had a very troubled production history. I like musicals. That had a very interesting, very troubled production history. Do you have any reminiscences from that? That sounds like it was a difficult show to work on.
That I met my wife and we fell in love.
That's what I thought you'd say.
I'll take one more question. Does anyone have one? No. Sure. You do.
Yeah. What is the message to all your fans and previous fans in your many roles over the past many years? What is your message to all of them?
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you all for coming. That's the best way to end it. Chris Sarandon Ken Page.